The Truth Girls.
Hi everyone, it's Sonia here. I just wanted to do a little quick video to give you an update on how my mom is doing, and also to tell you about something I found out about what one apartment building here in Montreal was doing, which was not exactly legal. First of all, I want to tell you about my mom. Just a quick recap in case you don't know, what you probably do. She was diagnosed with COVID at the end of April. I wasn't really worried about her because she's a pretty tough cookie, you know. Very, very healthy. Always has been. Just so you know, my mom, like anything that you could tell me about how a person should stay healthy, my mom was already doing it. And she'd been a health nut since like the 70s. So first she's asymptomatic. A few days later, her symptom was a slight cough and her oxygen started going down. So we were a little worried. But then she started to bounce back. Her oxygen went back up. She had no fever. She wasn't lying in bed. She said she was feeling okay. You know, she was pretty much like she always is. And I had been going and seeing her at the window. She was with it. She was having a conversation with me. She seemed like she was fine. The problem was she wouldn't stay in her room because our government here has basically incarcerated the seniors in their rooms or apartments, which is, I think, very cruel and really makes no sense considering all the other stuff that they handle so badly. So my mom is a very active, sporty person, so she didn't respond well to that. She just needs exercise. So she just kept walking up and down the halls. And they didn't like that. And this is like after she has COVID. Like by the time she went to the hospital, most of the people there had it. Anyway, my mom's walking around and they're trying to get her to stay in her room and it's not happening. So they called public health and they sent a nursing student to try to keep her in her room. And within like 2 hours, they realized this isn't going to work. I know my mom, she can be a bit of a firecracker, so I imagine she was like, but I just want to go out for a walk, and who are you to stand in my way? This is my home, and I'm a grown woman, and you know, she probably like laid that kind of thing on her. And so the nurse was like, well, this isn't some docile old lady who's just going to sit and watch TV, you know? So they decided then and there to move her to the hospital. So I went over there and I talked to her for one last time. And like I said, she was okay. She was looking out the window at me and my son. She was saying to the nurse, oh, look, my children are running around in the yard. So I was there, as you saw in my other video, for when they transferred her. After that, I didn't hear much for a couple of days. And then we heard bad news. Like we heard that my mother was like delirious. She didn't sleep for 3 days. She was very like wired, eyes wide open and staring, agitated but like unsteady, and they had put her in a wheelchair with a kind of hip protector and strapped her into the wheelchair. She wasn't eating, she was refusing to drink. They tried to give her an IV and she pulled it out. They put it in and then left her in the room with it, and when they came back an hour later, the IV was out and there was blood all over the place. This is where Lara comes in, and what a great blessing that my friend Lara is up working in the ward where my mom is, because Lara used to also take care of my mom. Like, well, my mom's guardian paid for Lara to go and be my mom's caregiver, and I was the one who, of course, hired Lara. You know, why wouldn't I? So Lara was my mom's private for like 6 months. So she knows her really well. And she was just absolutely shocked at the state my mom was in. And then I talked to her the next day, and she said, like she went into the computer and she like read all the lab work, which none of the other nurses had done. The others were just like, yeah, her labs are okay, except she's a little dehydrated. Well, Lara went in the computer and found out that her urea and her creatinine were very, very high. Like she was extremely dehydrated. And that's what the problem was. And the nurses, like the hospital was thinking she had a UTI. But Lara went in the computer. And I have the values here in my notebook. And they took bloods when she was still at the retirement home, and then when she got to the hospital, and then when she was switched wards. And before she left, her values were normal for her. And when she arrived, they were normal. 3 days later, the creatinine and the urea are extremely high, like ridiculous, like multiple times what they should be, like 3, 4 times, higher than they should be. My mom was completely dehydrated. That's what the problem was. I mean, that's at least part of the problem. Big part. It was like she was getting dehydrated to the point where her kidneys were going to fail. Lara was able to get her to accept the IV. So what she did was she told her, "Oh, we're just going to give you this IV it's to help plump up your skin." And my mom was like, "Oh, beauty treatment, okay." That's how my mom is. So she's like, "Oh yeah, okay, if it's for my skin, like that's fine." It is to plump up your skin, but that's because you're all dehydrated because you haven't drank in several days. And at that point, she stayed in the bed and actually went to sleep for the first time in 3 days. Took the IV overnight. So we're expecting the lab values are going to change and they're going to be improving. But what this is telling me is that the move to the hospital was such a shock and a trauma for my mother that my mom, who was really okay as far as the COVID goes, and yes, who has some moderate dementia, but was basically okay, not anywhere near death, and ended up at death's door from the experience of going to the hospital, and how that totally destabilized her to the point where she was like in this hyper excited, like stressed out state and wouldn't eat or drink, and then became so dehydrated that like her kidneys, the results look like someone who's having kidney failure, almost. But it's because she wasn't drinking. So it was like the move was what really did it. That's why she's actually sick now. Not really from the COVID, as far as I can tell. I mean, I could be totally wrong, and it could be that COVID makes you not want to drink water, but I don't think that's it. Because all the values, even to the second day in the hospital, were fine until she stopped, like she stopped drinking and whatever, and then it got really bad, and then she became like really unwell and really like crazed. I mean, imagine, they strapped her down because this is the thing. What happened when she got to the hospital? She still wants to walk up and down. She doesn't want to sit down. So they strapped her into a chair. And I guess it totally freaked her out. I mean, look, the hospital is doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they are trying to figure out how to deal with her to keep her out of other rooms, and we don't want her on a whole ton of medication, but she is kind of wild with her dementia, and especially right now. So that's what they did, but it just really backfired. I mean, we didn't want her strapped down or anything, but we also didn't want her drugged up, and neither did her doctor. Anyhow, it backfired, and that's why my mom was so unwell. It was dehydration, which is what I'd been hearing, that the seniors are so traumatized by the whole experience of being stuck in their rooms and being put in hospitals with people with hazmat suits, that they're losing the will to live, and they're not eating or drinking, and they're dying of dehydration, and So that's what had been happening, but my mom was very tough, and I think that now with Lara looking after her, God bless Lara. I mean, wow, thank you, Jesus. That one of my best friends is there taking care of my mom in the COVID hospital. Like, wow, So I think that now with Lara taking care of her and her getting some fluids, I think she's going to recover at this point. That's what I think. But I'll let you know if something happens. But I think she's okay, and thank you so much for your prayers. So the other thing I wanted to tell you is that I've heard something from someone who lives in a building for retirees. It is not a nursing home. It's not a CHSLD, and it's not a private nursing home. It's just a building for people. Actually, it's for people who worked at Bell. They have this apartment building where when people get older and they retire from Bell, they can go live there, which sounds pretty nice. I think they set it up a long time ago, and I know someone who was able to move there. And she's like 62, and the building had told her and everyone else they were not allowed to go outside. And she was under the impression that if they broke this rule or law, that they could be evicted. So she is totally healthy. She's actually one of the other people who had been caregiver to my mom. And she's totally healthy. Like, she's 62, but she's fine. And she's been locked in her apartment, not locked from the outside, but she's been like inside her apartment, isolated, for 2 months. I mean, she said she could go downstairs in front of the building, but they're not allowed to go to stores or really go anywhere. So she's been like in solitary confinement basically for 2 months. Healthy 62-year-old. There's absolutely no reason for her to be like that. And she thinks she has to do it or she's going to lose her apartment. Okay, so this building is called Manoir Frederick Johnson, and it's in LaSalle, I think. And they're not a retirement home, but they wanted their tenants to stay inside. The management just decided, you know, since these are retirees, they're in like their 60s and up, they decided to put them in solitary. Even though there's no law, there's no rule, there's nothing. And they went so far as to change their website. Usually it just says a home for retirees, like an apartment building for retirees, but they changed it to maison pour personnes âgées. Like they wrote, you know, a place for a home for old people, to make it look like, you know, they have a right to keep their people incarcerated, and they don't. So she called me. She's like, yeah, I haven't been able to leave the building because they changed it, and now it's a home for old people, and so we're not allowed to go out. I said, wait, that doesn't make any sense, because you can't just change your designation by changing your website. You have to have a permit. Like anyone who's running a CHSLD or a private seniors residence has to have the permit, like at the paperwork. And I said, I seriously doubt that in the middle of all this, with everything being closed, they were able to get redesignated. It doesn't make any sense. And those retirement homes that are really like for old people, they have special staff. They have like nurses' aides and nurses. There's a doctor who comes in once a week. They have things like that. Well, this is just a building, you know? So we went and looked at the website, and they had changed it back. And I told her, yeah, because they have no legal standing to do that, and they're lying to you, telling you that you're not allowed to leave, because they don't have the authority to tell you that. But none of you guys know that. So you're all going along with it. And you have rights as a tenant. They can't evict you for breaking a law that doesn't exist, you know? So I guess she was glad that she talked to me, because she realized then, she said, yeah, I guess they don't have a right to do that. And so the good news is she can leave the house now. But imagine, after 2 months. And actually now our government here is saying that they're going to give the healthy seniors permission to go out, even if they live in the official residences in the CHSLDs. If they're healthy, they can go outside, because being inside for so long is doing more damage. I mean, it's been a total fiasco up here, you guys. I mean, really, a crap show. But I'm wondering also, like, did other buildings do that as well? Like, because there are buildings that will take people only who are older or who are retired, but they're not like care centers. And I'm wondering, you know, have other places also done that and told their seniors they're not allowed to go out? I mean, it's hard enough for me, and I'm the autism parent, like I'm used to being isolated. But it's hard enough for me, just the fact that some things are closed and I can't see my friends. That really sucks, you know. And I can't really, like, I can't do things with my son like we used to, and I'm feeling it. Maybe less than other people, but I'm definitely feeling it now. I can't see my mother. So imagine for these people who are, they're seniors, but they're not in a retirement home, like not a, you know, a CHSLD or like a seniors home, and their landlord is telling them they can't leave the house. That's just awful. And she just spent 2 months inside for nothing. Anyway, I wanted to give you a heads up that, like, landlords are doing some, you know, fishy things here, and people really need to know their rights, because the reason that they all stayed inside like that is because they don't know their rights. And staying inside in one room is really bad for you when you're older. I mean, you need fresh air, you need sunlight, you need to move, you need some exercise, you decondition really fast. I mean, even me, I figure, like, I'm probably like getting really out of shape. You can imagine someone who's in their 60s. Anyhow, that's what's happening. So now I told her the truth. I told her, you can't just do that without a permit, you know. So they have nothing on you. Go outside. Go do your shopping if you want. They can't kick you out. So that's it. Knowledge is power. And I'll keep you guys updated about what's going on with my mom. I'm hoping that, you know, she's turning a corner now with the IV, and she's going to stabilize with those creatinine and urea values, and she'll stabilize, and then they'll hopefully move her to the other place, which is the CHSLD, but it's like one that's more equipped to deal with dementia, because where she was in the private residence, that was so expensive. They don't have the staff. Like, these places are understaffed. Like, they're definitely making money, you know, because they charge a lot, but they don't really have that many people there. So I don't know where the money goes. I think it just goes in the owner's pocket, you know. Yeah, seriously, somebody's getting rich off the seniors. So the CHSLD, it's going to be less expensive, and supposedly they have the staff, so they're going to be able to handle how much, you know, one-on-one she needs, and hopefully soon I'll be able to go and see her. That's what I'm waiting for. Anyhow, that's it. I just wanted to like give you guys an update. I know it's gonna be super late by the time I upload this, but I just want to say hi and see you in the chat. Let you know you're not alone. You're always in my heart, my thoughts. I pray for you guys, and like, let's get through this. This new world order is not gonna happen. Not this time. That's what I think. They're definitely trying very hard, but it's like it's blowing up all over the place. Like, people aren't going along with the program. I'm gonna get into that more in other videos. Actually, my next video, it's all going to be about Bill Gates and his tentacles that he's got in everything. Yeah, it's like Bill Gates is trying to rush the New World Order into production, but he's getting exposed, you know. But I'm hoping that it's not going to work, and at this point it's looking like maybe his plans are going to be foiled. So that's it. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining me in the chat. God bless you guys. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.